So Creed 3 picks up, I want to say 3 or 4 years in the future from the last story. But when we find Adonis, he's a father, he's a businessman, he is a devoted husband to a working wife. He's all these things that we haven't seen him in the last couple movies. You know, he's completed his journey, he's sort of made it to the top of the mountain, and he's looking for the next challenge, but you know, it's not always that simple for him. And so the fun for our part was, where's that next threat coming from? And typically in those situations, they kind of come from your past. What I think endears him to audiences is, at his core, he's a guy who is passionate, you know? You haven't seen Creed 1. This is a guy who had a career that he worked hard for in finance, and it just didn't fulfill him. And he, I think what made him relatable as a character is he had the guts to say, I want to chase my dream, no matter what that means. And I think that at his core, that is Adonis as a character. He's the guy who, we all have a passion inside of us, something that we wanted to do, something that drove us, something that was a dream of ours. Adonis is the guy whose dream just will not be deferred. And I think that that is him as a character. What he brings to this role is work ethic. And I think something that my brother saw in him when we sort of crafted the story, for one, is that Mike has this innate ability to make you empathize with him, even if you don't know him. I think on camera, he has a face where when Mike cries, I cry. Even if it's just completely makes no sense, he just has an innocence that he's able to convey, a vulnerability that he's able to convey on top of these other aspects. And I think when you couple that work ethic with that innate ability and his talent that he's spent his whole life mastering, it makes him a phenomenal performer. And he stepped into the role of director on this film, and it was seamless. You know what I mean? This is a guy who can learn choreography, step in the ring with anybody, still act, still check the monitor and say what needs to be fixed, and keep his cool. Majors is the kind of guy I described. When I first got to meet him, he's just like carved out of granite. You know what I mean? He's a granite person. Like, he's focused, not just physically, he's spiritually focused. He's kind of always got his eye on the ball. And thankfully, when I got to meet him, he had already done all this work on his character before. He works inside out. So, people will come and be impressed by the physical, things that he brought to the role, but he's very much a performer who knows that the physical is a manifestation of the internal. What's interesting about these two characters is their fighting styles tell the story about sort of their lives and how they came to learn how to defend themselves. Adonis has a style that is self-taught a lot, but he also has a style that he picked up from Front Street Gym in Philly. Philly has a very specific fighting style. And Adonis has this, they both have this sort of street fighting background, but how they grow and learn to communicate is very indicative of their journeys through life. Damian, on the other hand, would have learned how to fight, very early on in Golden Gloves, but he unfortunately had to spend a big portion of his life in prison. And so what you see when he comes out is he has a fighting style that is inspired by, elements of, the 52 blocks, which is a prison martial art. So all these sort of things play into not just their rivalry, but it's sort of a storytelling device for how they got to where they are. We realize that people who have that innate drive to become successful typically are driven by, an internal flaw, an internal inadequacy that kind of never really goes away. And what makes Adonis unique is he has this backstory that we hadn't really unpacked yet. He was a kid who came essentially from a juvenile hall, and we felt that connecting that deep event with Adonis and to his present day thematically could be a really good character journey for him. So from there, we constructed the story. We decided how the different characters that Adonis interacts with could highlight those changes in him. And then from there, we built an antagonist that could just once and for all throw a rock at all of his relationships. Mila Davis Kent plays Amara, who's Adonis's daughter. And she is the most fun you'll ever get to see on film. So she exists in this very vulnerable part of Adonis in this story where he sees himself in her for the first time, and he hasn't, in a way he hasn't had to see. She inherits a lot of energy from him. She's precocious just like he was. She's daring just like he was, and she's rambunctious kind of like he was. And I wanted to see a girl dad on film, just like Mike did, just like Tessa did, just like the producers did. Like Mike got super excited about exploring the father-daughter relationship, and we found a performer in Emila, who just can bring out that like true, authentic sense of fatherhood and protection and care and investment that you see from Adonis, and I think that is what makes the character so unique, especially in this saga. Tessa Thompson, who plays Bianca, is the ultimate foil for Adonis, which is what I love about her. But in this story, we wanted to sort of challenge their relationship and challenge their attachment a little bit more. What Tessa does so well is she's so formidable in her scenes with Adonis. She always makes him feel like he has to be better. That's a quality that I think Tessa brings to the character. It's my hope that people see this film and it gives them the courage to go have some difficult conversations. And I think with this film, we were really adamant about, we wanted to add to the Creed legacy while also recontextualizing some of it. And I think that the biggest thing about this film is learning how to appreciate the life you've earned is a big theme for Adonis. But also accepting yourself is a big thing. And accepting yourself is a big step if you want other people to believe in you and have faith in you and connect with you. Accepting yourself is a big step in that process. I think that that's what this film is all about.